Hey, I'm Stephanie, and it's time to get ready with me. If you've seen some of my videos in the past, you may have already noticed this is not my typical filming background, and that's because I'm on the road and will be for the next several weeks. But I have a couple of days off, I'm visiting family, so I'm hiding in a closet, as one does. This just happened to be the best space in the house, acoustically speaking, for me to record any sort of talking footage to the camera. I know the lighting is kind of not that great. So when I start applying makeup, I'm going to move things into the bathroom. The sound in there is atrocious though, so we'll just do a voiceover. I'll find a way to make it work. I hope. But basically, I am getting ready for our holiday party, and I'm just going to be doing kind of like an easygoing kind of event makeup, the sort of thing I would wear to a birthday party or New Year's or a wedding. All of the colors that I'm going to be using are things I think that pretty much anyone could find in their collection because they're all pretty basic. So if you feel like getting ready with me and doing a look that's inspired by this one, feel free to follow along because you probably have very similar things in your collection. This is my makeup bag for the holidays. It's teeny tiny, like for a makeup maximalist like me who wants to pack an entire huge suitcase of makeup. This was a miracle. So we're going to be going over what's in this bag, and I'm going to be smearing it all over my face. So let's get started. I've already prepped and primed my face with my skincare and some lip balm, and now I'm going to prime my eyes with my Laura Mercier Caviar Stick in the shade Vanilla Kiss. I just have this little travel-friendly sample, and so I just thought I would throw this in my bag. It's kind of similar to the paint pot from MAC in that it kind of hides the discoloration and veins on my eyelids and gives me a nice blank canvas, but I feel like this one is going on smoother than the MAC paint pot, so it's a little bit better maybe for mature eyelids, although I'm not sure if that's just because my paint pot is drying out a bit. Does anybody else have trouble using up a paint pot in its entirety before it dries out? I use mine almost every day, and I'm still finding that I can't use it up before the formula gets old. My eyeshadow today is a Tom Ford quad. It's the Suspicion quad, and I'm just going to use the kind of most neutral golden shade all over my eyelids, and then I will contour my brow bone and crease and outer corner with the kind of cocoa shade. Tom Ford is one of those brands for me that I feel like doesn't do a very good job with their online color presentation. I don't know, do you find that there are like certain brands who do a really great job doing like accurate color swatches on their websites and stuff, and then there's other brands that don't? Because I find that there's certain brands I've never had a problem with, and then there's brands like Tom Ford where I feel like I see the colors online and they're totally uninteresting, and then I see them in real life and I'm like, oh, that's actually really pretty. And that's what happened to me with this quad. I was completely uninterested in it because it looked so yellow online. And then I saw it in real life one day and was like, oh my gosh, that's actually pretty neutral for me. I'm mostly neutral when it comes to skin tone, but I do lean slightly golden olive, so a palette like this is pretty well suited to my skin tone. But if you wanted to do a look like this and you have a pink undertone, then I imagine a nice pink based palette, or maybe like the Tom Ford Body Heat quad would be great. That one's also, I think that one's great for any skin tone actually. And I almost took that one with me, but I decided on Suspicion because the gold I felt was kind of festive for New Year's. This Bobbi Brown face palette has saved me so many times when traveling just because it's so compact. You've got the corrector, concealer, foundation, powder, bronzer, all in one palette. It's so slim, it fits in any bag, and then there's no liquids to explode all over my bag if anything happens. So I'm gonna have a hard time giving this palette up. The formula of the corrector and the concealer is starting to get dry and stiff, so I think it's almost time. But oh gosh, the convenience is gonna be so hard to give up. But I do feel like, the color corrector, it does a good job color-wise, kind of getting rid of my dark circles. So I like it in that sense. As you can see here, it's, doing a pretty good job of brightening my under eye and getting rid of the circles. But I feel like over the course of the day, the texture of my skin under my eyes, this isn't the best formula for that. It's not a disaster, but I just feel like it's not ideal. So I don't know. This is one of those things, I'm using it for pure convenience, but the texture over the course of the day is going to get a little bit iffy under my eyes. But it's not bad enough that I wouldn't want to wear it. I guess it's just all a balance when you're traveling. The foundation looks a little bit wonky in the palette just because I actually used up the foundation, and then I had another like separate container of it, and I just scooped some of it in to this palette so that I could travel with it. It's the same, it's the Bobbi Brown stick foundation, and it's okay. It's not the best. I tend to try to use as thin of layers of it as possible just to cover up the worst of my redness. I find that using the heat from my fingers to warm it up and kind of press it into my skin helps, and then I can kind of smooth out the remaining product with a brush. And it does give me an even finish, but I do feel like, I don't know, I've got kind of tricky extreme combination skin lately, and it doesn't work particularly well on the extremes, like extreme oiliness and extreme dryness. I feel like I haven't found a foundation currently that works on all parts of my face. I feel like if I really want my face to look perfect, I would need to go in with a couple of different formulas in the different spots on my face, but there's no way I'm going to do that when I'm traveling. I just don't have the room in my bag nor the time when I'm on the road to do that sort of thing. So I'm just kind of working with what I have. I feel like for the most part, nobody is noticing the things that I notice, like the fact that this formula kind of emphasizes my dry patches and can get a little bit strange looking. I notice that when I look really closely with a mirror, but not a single person has ever said anything to me, even when I ask them about it. You know, like I showed my mom this foundation and she couldn't find a problem with it. So I feel like I'm probably the only one who sees the imperfections in this foundation. And in that case, I just feel like because it's so convenient, it's worth taking with me. I feel like sometimes we focus on finding the perfect product, but sometimes there is not a perfect product. You know, like I feel like my liquid foundations would have looked better, but they would have been so much harder to pack. So the theme of my life is working with what I've got, and that's the same with these foundations. When you saw the comparison photos, like the before and after that I showed at the beginning of the video, you can see, you know, this definitely does a good job of, you know, kind of filtering out the redness of my skin and just making everything look a little bit more even. And so even though it's not perfect, it definitely gets the job done. Once I'm done with my complexion, I'm just gonna go back in with my Tom Ford palette and take the lightest kind of champagne gold shade and highlight my inner corner, maybe a little bit of my brow bone. And then I'll just go in with the darker shades underneath the outer corner of my eye and just kind of add a little bit more definition, soft definition to the lower lash line. Is anyone else traveling for the holidays? Because I feel like I am a little bit jet lagged right now. I did my makeup a little bit out of order today, as as we'll see coming up with my brows. I don't know, like I'm just kind of in a state of mild sleepiness. The jet lag going in the direction I was flying isn't so bad, but I feel like it's still noticeable. So what I did was I ended up going in with my brow product. Normally I do that after my powders, but I don't know, I just wanted to fill in my eyebrows, and I don't know, I feel like I didn't do the best job of it. I dyed my eyebrows recently, and because my brow hairs are darker, I don't need as much product, but I was so tired that I kind of forgot I don't need to add a lot of color to the front of my brows because I have a lot of brow hair there and now it's dyed. So I don't know, it's one of those things where like if I had been more awake, I think I would have done a better job, but I mean, I'm visiting my family. They have to love me no matter what. So even if my brows aren't on point, it's not the end of the world today. This Undone brow pen that my mom gave me last Christmas has been so much fun using, and it's actually beat out some of my favorite products that are more expensive, so I'm really happy to have found this solution. I like the fact that it's a brow pen and a brow gel in one. When I'm traveling, that is so nice to have. My lipstick today is Charlotte Tilbury's Walk of No Shame, and it's kind of an easy red for me to wear. It's not too apparent, but I think it's festive enough. For a girl who loves her nude lipsticks, this color is definitely an easy to wear red. And it's also going to be doubling as my cream blush today. I just didn't have enough room in my bag for multiple products, but I find that the Matte Revolution formula does a nice job. Like, it gives me a nice even finish on my cheeks as well. It's not patchy, and it's very easy to apply and blend out. So I'm just going to use my fingers to do that. Just apply a little bit on the cheeks, give myself a little bit of a rosy glow. So I'm just going to go in with my finger, tap a little bit on my cheeks. Goes on really easily, blends out really easily, especially with the warmth of my fingers. And so I'm going with a festive, less is more vibe today. And once I've got all my creams on, I'm going to go in with the powders from that Bobbi Brown palette. And I went backwards. Normally I would put the translucent powder on to kind of set the center of my face, but I don't know. I just saw the bronzer and was like, I am going to use bronzer now. That's what zombie me did. So I'm using this one. This is like a kind of cooler bronzer shade, so I can use it to bronzer. And that makes it easier for me just because I didn't have room for my contour products. And so the shade of this is actually really nice for me to be able to use to contour, you know, the sides of my forehead, add a little bit of color to my cheeks, you know, do my jawline and my nose. And one of the things I like to do is go down the side of my neck with bronzer because I feel like it just kind of like emphasizes a little bit more definition in my neck. I don't know why I like a defined neck. That seems like a really weird thing to want now that I think about it, but I like it, so I do it. The formula of the Bobbi Brown bronzer is very finely milled and lightweight, so I feel like it's like almost impossible to apply too much of it. It's just super easy, especially with a nice fluffy brush. Once I'm done bronzing and contouring, I'm going to go back into the Bobbi Brown palette and use the translucent powder with my velour powder puff. A little bit backwards, but hey, jet lag had its way with me. I find that lately the best way to apply powder has been to go in with the powder puff into the powder, then tap it onto the back of my hand, and then go in on my face. I feel like that gives me the most even application that doesn't get cakey. But as I had mentioned in a previous video, I'm still kind of experimenting a lot with powder, so we'll see how this develops over time. My highlighter for the day is actually going to be another multitasker. I'm going back into the eyeshadow palette and using that kind of champagne gold shade on the top of my cheekbones. When traveling, I feel like multitasking is a savior, and it works really well. So when I have all of my products, you know, at my fingertips, then I love having different things to use and play with. But sometimes when I'm traveling, less really is more. Once I'm done with all the powders and face products, and I'm not going to be inadvertently hitting my brows with a puff or with a brush, then I feel like it's a good time to go in with brow gel. And this is once again part of that Undone Beauty pen and gel duo. And one of the things I like to do is back comb my brows first, and then I make sure I get that gel all over all of the hair, and I feel like that really thickens up the hair and the way it looks. I'm not sure how important that is when I have my brows dyed as I do right now, but I do feel like in general that's my best practice as someone with a lot of brow hairs that are very, very pale and blonde. When it comes to the eyeliner for this look, normally I would go in with a brown liquid or gel liner, but today is a holiday, so I'm going in with a multichrome liquid liner from JD Glow. And this one is in the shade Oil Spill. And I like it because even though it's a multichrome, for the most part, it's like a nice deep cranberry color with a little bit of a gold and a green and a blue shift to it. But the shift is very subtle. And I feel like, you know, it's a way to add a little bit of interest to the look without being super dramatic. And because it has that kind of deep cranberry color, I feel like that's great for the holidays. The one thing you have to be careful with this formula, as much as I really like it, it's not the sort of formula you can layer, and it's good to use as thin of a layer as possible because if it gets thicker, it starts to look a little bit heavy, and then it will flake off over the course of the day. But if I'm careful and use just a very thin layer and I don't layer on top of it, then it looks gorgeous and it holds all day. So I'm just trying to be careful to use a thin layer here, especially because I'm going to be going in with a second gold eyeliner, also from JD Glow, over the top. I'm not going to put it like sandwich it onto my eyelid so that eyelid and then the red and then the gold on top. But the gold is going to be like vertically on my eyelid, on the inner corner, and then go a little bit above that liner just to kind of emphasize my eyes a little bit more and bring a little bit of festive light to the lids. And then I'm just going to top it with my normal mascara. It's just the L'Oreal Voluminous mascara. This tube has been dry from the very start. I don't remember this formula being this dry, but I'm really unhappy with it right now. It's taking forever to coat my lashes because it's so dry. I haven't had this problem in the past, but it's also kind of flaking off on my cheeks over the day. Like, it's not giving me panda eyes, but it is flaking, and I'm not sure if it's just the tube I got or what, but I don't know. I might have to change things up next time I go mascara shopping, because this one just is not doing it for me. And here we have the finished look. So I'm gonna go hang out with my family, but if you'd like to keep hanging out with me here, I've got a video just for you. Other than that, I hope you have happy holidays and that we can all remember that even stumbling can be a form of moving forward. So let's stumble in style.